Supports. Can't live with them, can't live without them sometimes. They're a necessary evil of 3D printing. So once you print a part with a large overhang and using supports, what do you do with all that material? Well, you can't break physics. We can't defy physics. So we're always going to need some sort of support for large overhangs. But is there a way that we can reduce the amount of support we need to use? Now Angus over at Maker's Muse did a great tutorial on Simplify3d support structures, how to make them super strong and then only have them break away where you need them and also minimize the waste. And playing around Simplify3d and going around to different forums, I found a trick somebody had suggested and decided to experiment with it to try to reduce the material even more, called angled supports. It's not an official Simplify3d feature, but it's a trick that Simplify3d has, and I think it's pretty cool, and it's worked for me. So let's take a couple minutes and show you how it works. So here's an example I made in Simplify3d. It's a very basic example with a large overhang. Now I know if you go in to here and do Control L and pick this face, you could easily print it this way with no support, but that's not the point here. Let's assume the sides were curved or had some kind of neat feature that made it very hard to lay down on its side. Let's say you had to print it this way. Well, this angle here is about 50 degrees. You might be able to get away with it, but let's go a little steeper. So let's say this is a steep one. We need to have supports here. So we normally would go in here under Tools, Customize Supports, and say 45 degrees, 3 millimeters, and Generate Automatic Supports. And this is what you would normally get. And that works. You've got material from here all the way down to the bed, and this would support, it would work great, but that's a lot of material that you wouldn't normally need to use if you use angled supports. So how do we go about doing that? Well, we can't break physics, but we know that we can print at least with certain materials 45 degrees, sometimes 55 degrees depending on your cooling. So let's go in here around the x-axis, take this part and rotate it 45 degrees because we know we can print that. And I will take this and move it up here. That's the maximum we could print. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate it so that this edge here is vertical to this edge. So about here. Okay. So note here that this edge here is lined here, and we know that we didn't rotate this whole part more than 45 degrees. Well, if I go in here now and go Tools, Customize Support Structures, pick your support resolution, and do Add New Support Structures, so we're going to manually add them. We can go in here and add these. I may speed this up a little bit in the video, but just go across, add your supports, fill it in. You could actually probably go to a bigger one too. There we go, you can go to a bigger one. You just want to cover this face. Okay, so now we've got this. Now the problem here is obviously this isn't flat on the bed, but the trick is that Simplify3d doesn't know when you rotate a part afterwards. It just keeps the supports the way it is. So if I go in here and do Control L and pick the bottom face and center it on the bed, now I've got angled supports. It doesn't care. So if I go in here and prepare to print, if you look in here, all those supports are still there. It's just printing at an angle. So it will go down here and build on top of this face and create your print for you. Pretty neat. So let's take a look at that. Alright, so with the angled supports, notice we didn't have to have all that printed material go all the way down to the bed. We could only use a partial amount of supports that we needed. So I printed this at half scale, and this is what it kind of looks like. So it goes and prints, there we go, right in front of my pale face. Now it only uses the supports it needs. If I go in here, a pair of needle nose pliers, and pull that out, Now you've got, you may need to clean up a little bit, a couple little pieces. There you go. Right off. And there you go. You got a nice clean part with half the support material, which is cool. So let's go to a little more complicated design. In Fusion 360, I made this design. It's nothing special, it's just a challenge. So we have this part here, and I've got this big umbrella-shaped overhang. Now normally you go in here and do Tools, Customize Support Structures, 3mm, Generate Automatic Supports, and there you go. But you got all that material going all the way down to the bottom. I think we can do better. So let's go in here and try to do the same thing that we did before. So we'll do Rotate. We will rotate this so it's along an axis. We can go this way, and we're going to rotate around the y-axis. Click on the part and go, so we got 9 degrees, and we know we can go 45, so let's call it 55. Okay, and we can go up here, move it above the bed, take a look. Yeah, we're good. Okay, so we know that if we draw in vertical supports right now, that when we rotate it back up on top, the supports will be at 45 degrees or less, which we know we can print. So let's go in here, look along this axis, do Tools, Customize Support Structures. We'll try resolution of 4, add new support structures, and we can go in here and go there. And we can look from the side here. Okay, then it's going to get a little tricky. So we know we can do that much. And we can come in here. Okay, now we can't go here because it goes all the way down to the bed. But what we can do is go in here and rotate the part. Right. So now this is right above here. So we can go in here, Customize Support Structures, add new material. Okay, there's that. It looks like we got to do one more rotation. You can go in here, and you can use bigger pillars. Okay, so now we're gonna look at the other side. Hit this. Hit this. And look straight down it. We can go. And I'm just using this as an example, guys. You can go in here and do a much cleaner job than I'm doing right now. But okay, so if we go back, now that we've added the supports, it looks like one got away from me. Let's clean those up. Tools, Customize, remove existing supports. Looks like I didn't rotate it far enough. Okay, so if we go here, let's fill this in. Okay, and rotate one more time. Okay, so you see how that works. You basically rotate it so you can draw straight down. You look from the side, they're not more than 45 degrees. So we do Control L and pick the face. Oops. Control L, pick face, and center. So now you can see that the supports are at an angle. Since this is a vertical wall, one trick I found, if you're trying to support off a vertical wall, one trick I found was if you use the variable settings wizard, right where the supports start, for maybe the first millimeter or two, go ahead and split the process right where the supports start, just above. Add a location and split. And for that first process under support, what I do is the horizontal offset for the part, I make it like 0.15. Normally I use 0.75. Using 0.15 brings the material gap between the main part and the support closer, so it can attach to the wall a little easier and start building your supports. Once you get the support starting to be built, you can go into the second process, which is from here to the top, go to supports, and you can change this to your standard 0.75 or whatever your horizontal offset gap is. You go in there and set up your print, let it slice. Simplify3d goes in there and builds a angled support all the way across, and it has no problem with that. Now, instead of having material going from here all the way down, you only have a little bit of material at the top. So you saved a lot of material and a lot of time. You can imagine if this part was much taller, that all that support material going straight down, that's a lot of material savings and a lot of time savings. So let's take a look at what that part looked like. Let's watch it print. Here. Note the support material doesn't go all the way down to the bed, it only attaches to the side here, and let's see what happens if we try to peel it off. It took a second for me to get my pliers underneath there, but once I did, the entire support material broke away. There's the top of the supports. Broke away in one chunk, actually two chunks. And there you go. And note, even with the 0.15 offset here, surface still looks, it's tough to get a focus on that. Trust me that you can see it there. There you go. It's got a nice shine to it. Didn't bother it in the least. And we got nice prints. So we saved a bunch of material there. Let's go back to that part and look at how much we'd save if I maximize the volume of that print into my print. Let's take this part and go under Edit, Scale to maximum size. Let's scale the supports with it. Let's slice that. Okay, so for this method, we have 8 hours, so we'll call it 8 hours and 101 grams of material. Let's go back and do it the old-fashioned way. Tools, Customize, Clear Supports. Generate automatic supports. So we had 8 hours and 10 minutes and about 100 grams of material, 13 hours, 43 minutes, and 234 grams of material. So you've saved easily 50% of your material and waste and cut off about 6 hours worth of printing. Now you can do the multiple processes where you can change the density of your infill and stuff like that, but this is just an apples to apples comparison. So something to consider for future prints. But where does this, now that we've done some samples, where does this actually come in? Where would we use this? Well, one example is the Wexter design here with Joker. Now normally you'd go in here and you got this chin that you got to deal with. So you go in here and let's just, for quick purposes, let's just go in here and say generate automatic supports. Okay, ignore all this stuff here, but note the supports front of the chin go all the way down to the bottom of the base here. Okay. Not only that, there's sometimes if the chin were to overhang more, now you've got a support growing up out of nowhere that's got to stand up, not fall over, and hopefully be okay. So in this case, the chin's okay over the body, but you've had those parts where the overhang is way over here, so you got to build up supports far away from your main part and hope that that doesn't fall over. So if we go in here and use our trick, you take the part, rotate it back like that. Go in here, Tools, Customize Supports, add new support material, and I'm going to go underneath the chin and put some there. And I'll put some supports through here. There we go. So now we got the supports. I don't know how that one got there. Okay, so now we go back in here and we can do Control L. There you go. Now your supports grow off the part here, off the main base, and now you only need this much support material. You can go in here, slice the print, and there you go. You only need that much support material. You can go in here, and that support material is all you need to create that chin. And because it's shorter, it's a much more stable support. Okay, let's take a look at the final result. So here is my Joker. Let's see if I can focus in here on him. There you go. Put a little extra light on him. See if I can do that. There you go. So you can see, nice clean part. Chest actually, because of the 0.75 millimeter offset, has no issues whatsoever in the middle. And we used a lot less waste material, and with a risk like this where the part's bigger, you didn't have to risk having the supports fall over. Although in this case it wasn't too bad, but other ones you'd have the same problem. So angled supports in Simplify3d, not officially supported, but a neat trick that could save you a lot of time in the future depending on how big your part is. What did we learn here? Generating automatic supports works fine in Simplify3d. Applying manual supports works great. It's one of the big reasons to use Simplify3d. Using angled supports is a neat little trick that they don't talk about that can save a lot of waste material in certain situations. As you saw in the case here, granted this was a, funny looking part just to show you you can do tricky parts if you're willing to put in a little bit of time. And if you scaled it up, because it's scaling is in 3 dimensions, you could save easily 50% of your support material mass and save hours of printing. So it may not work for every case, but angled support materials may be something you may want to consider for some of your future projects. Remember, it doesn't even have to be on one side. If we had this part and it went up, and we had another one coming off this side, you could put your support material here, then rotate the part this way, and add your support material part over here, and then put it straight back up and down. And you'd have angled support on all the different parts. And you wouldn't have to have it go all the way down to the bed. Something to consider for the future. I just think it's a neat trick. Maybe everybody knows about it already, but I found it fascinating, and I can't find anywhere on Simplify's site where they talk about doing it. But it's something to try. It's a neat little trick, and hopefully it helps people reduce their waste material, speed up their prints, and make for an easier support removal. So I hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, guys, we'll see you on the next project.